What's up, y'all? Preston from Liquid Life Wellness Water. Here we are joined today by Brooks Friesenhahn for episode 10 of Liquid Life. Brooks is the founder and CEO of Hydrus Consulting, a water consulting company in all areas of water here in Texas, based in San Antonio. And we are here together in Austin, Texas today on this Sunday afternoon. What is it? Palm Sunday, April 13th.
Yep.
Voila. And I'm so excited to sit down and chat with you in person. We've had some Zooms here and there and been following each other on Instagram, and it's fun to kind of sit down and
it's much better in person.
100%.
Always. You get all the Zooms and you don't get the personal side of it. So,
Definitely.
Yeah, glad you can make it into Austin. Glad to kind of be in the neighborhood. So
I'm so
Austin has worked out.
Yes, we love Austin. We're excited to have you on here, and we're going to start off with this water. This is Planet H2O. Have you heard of this water?
I have.
Okay. What do you know about this water?
I don't know very much about it. I've heard of it. Haven't ever tasted it.
Yeah.
So excited to get to
Well,
taste it.
here's the opportunity. Pass me that glass.
There we go. Come on.
Slide it over. Brooks is from
Slide
Texas
across the
also.
bar. We got no problem sliding it across the bar here.
Now, the real question is, does it... There we go.
It works. It tracks.
Eventually, we'll be extremely professional because, as you know, the water changes flavor based on whatever you had in the cup. We had a pod guest 2 episodes ago. He's this MMA fighter, Knife Face, and he brought an energy drink to the show, cracked the energy drink, and put it in the glass. And so all
ruins the glass for the rest of everything. Yeah, we're supposed to be tasting water and getting to know what it actually tastes like.
So it all kind of tasted a little like strawberry lemonade.
I would imagine.
But we tested the TDS of the energy drink, and
what did it come back at? Curious.
it was under 100.
Okay.
Because of course we're using RO water.
Yeah, exactly.
At least that's what my memory is coming up. But of course, then it kind of ruins the TDS meter when you're testing.
Yes, I would imagine.
I forgot my TDS meter in Houston. We got it from LA to Houston. We didn't get from Houston to Austin, but we made it with almost everything else.
Well, and when you text me about that, I really do always carry one. It's always in my little dash in the front. And I just moved into a new house this week, and so all of my stuff is kind of getting cleaned up and reorganized. And so it's one of the things that kicking myself. I was like, man, I organized that too much. I wish it was still here, so I had it. So
well, I guess there's a reason why we're not supposed to have a TDS meter today. But I do know the TDS of Planet H2O is the high 300s.
Okay.
It's the deepest potable drinking water well in the world. They were drilling an exploratory wildcat well, and it's about 60 miles outside of Nashville in the early teens, so 15-ish years ago, I do believe. And they ended up testing this water as it was coming up because they didn't hit oil, and the water quality was like shocking them. And they did some more research, and it's so interesting because this water is 500 million years old, untouched by humankind.
That's so cool.
Fascinating water.
It's incredible. That's
so
crazy.
Cheers.
Cheers. It's good.
I like the flavor of this water. It's very alkaline. I like the mineral composition of it, and it's a really interesting water because it is so old and so untouched. So I've been drinking this water all weekend. Actually, they sent me a couple of cases, and I've known about this water for a while, but it's my first time actually drinking it. So it's been really fun to kind of actually enjoy this water.
That's the cool side of seeing so many different brands and getting to see everybody's stories and like tasting so many different things. And we're used to, more mineral water down here, right? Like when we're drinking just tap water even. I mean, we're coming from the Edwards and Trinity, and so you're getting that big kind of mineral punch, right? And I am kind of raised farm and ranch, so we drink a lot of well water. So you're getting the most pure, just straight out of the ground, from your backyard. And so I like those big kind of, real minerality, based profiles whenever I'm drinking water. But it's very cool to see so many different brands like this and like what you guys are doing, how there is just such a big difference. It's no different than wine. And that was it was kind of eye-opening the first time that we were going through a tasting panel at HEB, working on a spring water project with them. And kind of the bottled water world was unknown to us, right? Like, go back to where we started. It was just drilling wells and primarily selling to cities, selling to industrial guys. And so the first time we met with HEB is, hey, this is a, seemingly simple thing for us. Typically we're over 1 million gallons a day is the smallest project we look at. And when we come into it and they're, okay, we want some samples, bring them into headquarters, and we walk into this huge conference table, and there were probably 20 people around it, and I mean, it was like a sommelier was running the thing, right? And I remember just sitting there and like, oh my gosh, there's more to it. Like, this isn't just water. This is more of like this is a taste. This is an actual a kind of piece of art that these guys are putting together and what they want to go for their customers and their product. And it was just eye-opening to me, and that's why we've invested more time in it. It's just artistically, it's so much cooler than, I'm just going to go drill wells and try to move water for whatever the use is. So it's been really interesting, kind of see everybody's story, see what goes into it, learn more about the actual taste side.
100%. It's so interesting, the differences between the commercial use of water and the use cases for that and what you're looking in those waters versus the actual drinking water, right? And as someone who is raised in Texas on well water, you had that experience at HEB. What was kind of your main takeaway, if you had one, or some of your main takeaways from that experience that were like the aha, eye-opening moment? Because I know for me, I'll share after you, my kind of aha, eye-opening moments that we were reflecting on yesterday.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the biggest eye-opener it was more of a personal side for me. So my background, I'm engineering by degree, right? That's how my brain works. And so I'm very analytical and just, following numbers, starting a project, finishing a project, but also have a side where there's more creativity that goes into it. And so it was eye-opening to sit there and say, okay, there can be a crossover between what I'm doing on the analytical side and like what I feel like my passion is, which is water, but still have kind of a creative outlet on actually providing a product that's more than just fluid, right? And so being able to look at something and then have an opinion of, okay, well, I think this is where the best water comes from on the taste panel side, right? Like, and finding a way to get that into my career, into my day-to-day was just really cool because I didn't think that existed. I mean, I thought it was, hey, we're just going to drill wells, we're going to try to help cities, try to help oil and gas, help energy, but being able to have an outlet where there's more than just, filing a drilling permit, drilling a well, putting a pump in it. I mean, it was a really, really cool thing. I mean, it was like a whole nother level of passion that came out to play whenever we started doing that. So it's just really, really, really neat.
And did that change the way that you thought about what you were drinking?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah, I mean, that was like the first entrance into bottled water that we had. And for me, like, I'm just a nerd on, like, I try to research everything. I try to know everything about it. And so when you start to realize, like, okay, like, the majority of water on the shelf is purified water.
Yep.
That's just tap water.
Yep.
That's no different than putting your mouth under the sink and drinking what's coming out.
Which is less bad here in Austin because we're getting
Correct.
that water from the Edwards,
Correct.
usually.
Correct. Yeah. But there's a lot of blending that's going on the municipal side nowadays. Texas, we're in just a horrible drought, and we're in a boom of development. And so the issue that it's causing for guys like us, any city, any home developer like the D.R. Hortons or Lennars of the world, you're having to, be more particular on where you're sourcing that water from. So what a lot of people are doing, or they're getting water from multiple sources and they're blending it all together and then putting it into a system. Not everybody's doing that, but it's a big push that's happening in the development world. And so, primarily, yes, Austin is, on the Edwards, but you could have some other areas where, you bring in Carrizo water, which has, radionuclides, like sometimes, right, or other chemicals that are coming in that aren't something you would want to drink. And so it's this weird little mix of, it seems like it's great on the surface, but when you get into it, it's kind of like the, darker side of what we do of like, man, like some of this is just not great water to be putting into the system. But it's just it's a tough spot for us because there's just so much growth coming in, and water is such a finite resource for us that you have to produce it where you can get it.
100%. And then there's new technology that comes out to filter out those
Correct.
particular, challenges. And I've been looking into particularly the newest technologies of fluoride filtration to solve a problem.
Yeah.
And like bone char is the kind of most easily accessible, but then it will add a bunch of calcium back to the water. And you want that calcium to magnesium ratio to be more ideal than having a huge calcium to magnesium ratio, because in our bodies we generally want 1.5 magnesium to 1 calcium, and we're not getting as much magnesium in the food we eat because of over farming, etc. And then the bone char is charred animal bones, so it makes the product not vegetarian or vegan, and then you cut off a whole other sector of potential enjoyers of the water, and you're shooting yourself in the foot. And it's like, man, you take out one thing and then you end up with something else you don't want in the water. And it gets to a certain point where it's such a push and pull with drinking water. I'm thinking of in particular, it's all about that source and having the most perfect, pure, ideal source for whatever your kind of intention is for the water, or what your belief system is around what is the best mineral composition of that water, without any of the PFAS, microplastics, fluoride, etc. One question for you. Well, also the 1 million gallon a day minimum, that's for commercial projects,
That's
right?
commercial projects.
Because 1 million gallons a day for a bottled water company, I guess when you're Dasani, but they're getting tap water, right?
Yeah.
That's a different story. But in my mind, I'm going through the math, like how many 12-ounce bottles can I make with 1 million gallons? And it's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a whole lot. God, and I wish I had that number in my head still. We've run that calculation a bunch. But yeah, typically on the larger bottling side, you're looking at 300,000 gallons a day, 500,000 gallons a day at the most. And that's on the spring side, right? Purified, there's a bigger market for production, so people are having higher volumes than that. But on the bulk spring side, typically we're saying, somewhere around 300,000 in Texas for the most that we would see. So, but yeah, on the industrial side, on the municipal side, we're seeing guys that, right now, kind of sweet spot for us is about 5 million gallons a day. Also, along with Hydrus, I'm a partner in a company called Blue Water. We did a deal with San Antonio in a project called the Vista Ridge, and that was the largest P3 project in North America. It's a 143-mile pipeline that services about 30% of San Antonio's water demand, and that's 43 million gallons a day.
Wow.
And so it's a 6-foot pipe. I mean, I'm a smaller guy. I could walk standing straight up through the thing.
Did you get a photo of you in the pipe?
Oh, no. I'm also claustrophobic, so I passed. But.
And probably not up to code to be in the pipe.
I think that's frowned upon a little bit, yeah. But no, we look on the bigger side on production. A lot of it, it's capital when it comes down to it. I mean, it's easier to get projects done. All of these are, typically really high dollar CapEx projects that we deal with. So more volume, it helps us be able to finance it. But on the bottle side, it's totally different. It's a different market. We can afford to go down to some of the smaller volumes.
So growing up on well water, there's typically fluoride in that well water at sometimes pretty high levels. What is your kind of understanding between the fluoride that's being added in these municipal systems versus the naturally occurring fluoride, which is usually CaFl, calcium fluoride, which is less bioavailable, meaning it absorbs in your body less quickly or less availably, especially if you have calcium present, right? And so with the municipally added water, fluoride to the water, it's oftentimes fluorosilicic acid, which instantly goes into your body. And the problem with fluoride, I'm sure you probably know this also, but for our audience, a lot of people are becoming more and more aware of this problem, is it calcifies the pineal gland, your third eye, which naturally produces DMT and is in touch with your intuition and God, higher power. This is the God kind of third eye molecule generator, right? And I think a lot of people are really scared of the fluoride and why are we adding it? Why do we keep, even in Austin, they've recently just passed a bill where they're going to keep adding fluoride to the water. And I understand some benefits of it, but I'm curious to kind of hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, a lot of it, and it's tough. I mean, and this is more of just a personal opinion of mine, but when you get into some of the additives that are going into water, whether it be fluoride, chlorine is a big one, like any treatment.
That's my next question.
Yeah, it's a whole, I know, that's, there are different opinions on it. Each kind of serves their own good. I think fluoride is the one that I have the biggest question mark on, like from a water perspective, because we're putting it as an additive in a lot of sources that there is just no inherent benefit that at least doesn't match what it's perceived as or how it's being communicated by these guys, and these guys being kind of government. I think that anything that's added chemically shouldn't be there. That's primarily because I'm just so in tune with groundwater in Texas, and I know that, there are sources where we have, no reason to be adding anything to it. Like there are certain things we can take out of it, but I don't like putting chemicals into it, right? There's no reason to beef it up if we could just have a pure source that doesn't require that. Yeah. So, I mean, naturally occurring, yeah. I mean, in well water, you are going to find fluoride, but if it's happening naturally because, geology has that, the process working in the background, that's fine, right? I don't want to be dumping stuff into our water and consuming it because we have to, though. So, kind of a question mark, on the, kind of engineering science side of it. I'm not really too in tuned with what's good or bad. I have heard a lot of press about, people trying to get fluoride specifically out as of late, but, unfortunately, it's kind of turning around a huge ship on the legislation side, on the legal side of what is and what isn't allowed. So,
and it's just with life, right? You try and focus on one thing, and it's this push and pull, the kind of whack-a-mole situation. You get all the fluoride out, and then Berkey, for example, they had a fluoride-specific filter that added almost 300 times the legally allowed limit for your daily dose of aluminum, because it's an aluminum sulfate filter, I believe. And it's like, okay, well, that's even worse for you.
We solved this one little problem. We've got a whole nother one over here.
So I think this is just important, right, to have these conversations about water, because it is the most essential part of life, right? We can go on a 40-day water fast. You can't really do that without water unless you're really, really in tune and ready.
And one interesting thing, I mean, it is, to me, it's such an unknown to everybody else, right? It's cool to have a conversation with someone like you because you understand it, but the majority of people I talk to, they don't understand where the water comes from that they get out of their tap.
Yep.
And there are just all these question marks, and people know it's so important, but they don't know anything that goes into it. And so being able to educate, to have a platform like this to, get it out to anybody of, hey, this is really how things work. This is what we could do better. This is what we're doing good already. I mean, it's so important. And I think, recently, especially in Texas, we're seeing that. I mean, we have some stuff going on at the house right now up at the Capitol that, makes this the best time to be in water in a long time. I mean, by far since I've been doing this. I mean, the state of Texas has over $1 billion a year being allocated to new infrastructure. I mean, so we're seeing this push that, we've kind of been kicking and screaming for a long time actually come to fruition. So it's a really cool time for us.
So my business partner sent me that article, and he's like, I don't know if it's the right time to be sourcing your water in Texas. I sent it to you in an email, and I'm like, what are your thoughts on this? I want to hear someone who's really, really in it, especially in that infrastructure side, rather than us who are more in the bottled water business, because they're adjacent but very different businesses. So can you kind of explain a little bit more around why you think it's such a great opportunity as I pour us our next water? This is Sant Agnol, natural mineral water. I do believe it is, Gironia. Do you know where Gironia is?
I have not the slightest clue. could not tell you.
It sounds pretty French to me, but I was just kind of assuming it's French. It's very Wes Anderson-esque. They have a
great bottle.
Kind of embossed little three-dimensional texture with custom mold. And you don't really see just a nutrition label on the back. So really pretty bottle. This is the flat version. Yep, slide her down here to...
Yeah, I've got the Canadian tux on, so we're good at sliding it. So.
I thought Morgan Wallen was pulling up to the...
Oh, gosh. Yeah, that's hot name to drop right now.
Oh, really? What's wrong with Morgan? I just had a kid, so I'm like...
After the SNL thing, I feel like everybody... Anyway, we'll unpack.
Comment below. Or maybe
Morgan
don't.
Wallen fans. Do we like him? Do we hate him?
I know he got some heat a couple years ago, but
No, he was on SNL, and I think he was the first guest ever that whenever the show ends, they always shake hands and hug, and he kind of said hi to the guy that was, or the girl that was hosting with him, and then he just walked straight off, like didn't say bye to anybody. And then he posted something, "Get me back to God's country," picture of his jet leaving. And so everybody's like, oh, this guy, he's back in the limelight. So
That's so
Yeah,
funny.
that's,
Get me back to God's country.
God's country. Come on, get me back to Nashville.
That's so he still lives in Nashville. God's country. Who sang that song? This is God's country.
Oh,
Not good with country music names. It's someone, not Tim McGraw, but adjacent to Tim McGraw.
It's the
This is God's
very
country.
Nashville country song. Yes.
So this water, based on your previous sommelier HEB experience, are you able to kind of understand the mineral profiles based on the water you're tasting?
A little bit more. I mean, I'm still not as good as it as some of the guys that we work with, but I can definitely feel it on my palate more.
Yeah.
Like this is closer to what I'm accustomed to on the mineral side. But I'm by no means the guy that's an expert on tasting.
Yeah.
Right.
To me, there's definitely a high bicarbonate level to this water and a low sodium content to this water. It is pretty alkaline. If I had to guess, about 8 pH. I'd bet this is actually a similar TDS level to this. So a lower on that mineral water side, in between high 300s to probably mid 400s or so. So that I like this water. It's nice. I really like the bottle design. I like the Wes Anderson nature. Let me see if they have they do. Literally the smallest print ever. Your boy was pretty close. 323
There
TDS.
you go. We don't even need the TDS
And
meter.
Bro, look at this. 318 HCO3, which is bicarbonate, right? And so that's basically all of the TDS in here.
That's everything.
So dang, I did not read that.
That's great.
We're getting better. And the key is to not eat chocolate right before you get on the water show, because whatever you put in your, I just had P. Terry's for lunch. So I'm
great.
Oreo milkshake.
Oh yeah.
But that was a little like an hour and a half ago. So we got the palate kind
There's
of
enough
recleansed.
time.
Yeah.
There's enough time. So a question for you, and this is one that comes up. It's always an interesting one. What is view on TDS in your opinion?
Yeah.
Right. We've worked with guys that want to be sub 50. We've worked with some guys that want to be 700.
Yeah.
Right. So there's just this big range, and it's always an interesting one for me, like learning more about everybody's opinion. But
Totally.
where do you stand on the TDS?
Yeah, so TDS, for people who don't know, total dissolved solid, it measures the mineral content in your water, because like Martin Rees says, water is not just water, right? Water is inherently a solvent. These purified water companies are taking municipally sourced water, reverse osmosis, filtering it, or vapor distillation, or these things that strip all of the minerality from it, or almost all, at least usually that's the goal. And then oftentimes, like a Dasani or Aquafina, will remineralize with bicarbonate, sodium, potassium, but in very small levels. And so you see electrolytes for taste. Electrolytes and minerals are the same thing.
Yep.
You know this, but just to kind of educate people who might not be familiar. As far as the water goes and how I view TDS, there's kind of 4 categories. There's the artesian well water, which in my mind is, or like an Icelandic glacier type of water, a snow melt type of water that's under 100 TDS. And these waters that are very low in TDS are great for detoxification. If you want to detox your body, drink a bunch of completely purified water and you will feel extremely weak. You'll get a lot of toxins and you'll flush your body out, but to actually hydrate yourself, that's not a great thing to do in the long term. We got a zero water filter, and it comes with a TDS meter, and it filters your water to 0, which is incredible in Los Angeles, starting at 360 to 0. So really impressive. And we were drinking that for literally the first day. My wife is like, I'm done with this. I feel sick. My teeth hurt. I feel sore. I can't do anything. I have no energy. And that was like, okay. Burp cam.
It was going to happen at one time.
Usually I don't.
One of us.
Usually I don't let them fly so hard, but because it was such a kind of intense moment, I just let it rip, Brooks.
Let it rip.
So that under 100 is really a detoxifying water, and there are specific use cases for that. Sometimes you want to flush your system. As far as an everyday water goes, I like to be in more like the spring water side of things, in between 1 and 250. And so to be technically classified by the FDA as a mineral water, you have to be at 250 milligrams per liter parts per million or higher. And so Mountain Valley, for example, 223 TDS on average. At least that's what they're marketed as. And so that's kind of my everyday water right now. There are problems with them, kind of supplementing with some municipal water to meet demand. And they're not the only ones. And so we can kind of chat about that in a second without getting into too much trouble. And then above that 250, there's kind of two main levels of mineral water.
Mm-hmm.
There's the sweet spot for more of an everyday kind of water, which is that 300 to 500 range. That'll kind of land you in the San Anual territory, Topo Chico, these types of waters. And then there's the 800 plus level. And so this last water, crazy water on here, is level 3, and that's around that 800 level. I love Gerolsteiner. That's my favorite high mineral water.
Love that water.
And it's just the perfect mineral water in so many ways. From Germany, their most popular mineral water that they export here. And the highest carbonation level, there's 4 levels of Gerolsteiner in Germany, but we get the high carbonation. So there's just specific use cases, like to rehydrate yourself. The electrolytes, the minerals that we're looking for in these electrolyte powders exist in water. Yeah. And people have it's just not. And so now that I'm a water obsessed person, I have different waters for different things that I'm doing. If I'm going on a run outside, then I really want to remineralize before and after. If I want to detox, if I'm just going about my day, there's just so many different waters out there that I'm just obsessed.
And it's easy to be obsessed. I mean, and like really when you see a perspective like that, I mean, it's the truth. I mean, it's a different composition for everything. I mean, it's no different than, okay, what, energy drink am I going to drink, or what supplement do I need to take, right? I mean, it is a more intuitive thing where you could look at it and like, okay, well, I'm going to drink a little bit of this water right now because it's going to help me, rehydrate better, or drink a little bit this later for a detox. And people just don't, they don't really see it if they aren't, a water obsessed person like we are. But, and Gerolsteiner, I mean, that's my favorite one. If people just ever talk about, water's water, that's the one that I give them. It's like, okay, well, try this. Like, what do you think of this?
And do they like it, or do they like?
Well, I mean, every single person I've given it to is kind of freaked out at first. Like, whoa, and like kind of knocked back a little. And it's like, yeah, there's like a lot more that goes into this. And I mean, that one is kind of an acquired taste.
Oh yeah,
like I love it.
Me too.
But I know a lot of people that will not drink it, like will not at all. So
it's because sometimes you just want some cold water, right? With Gerolsteiner, if you're after a big run and you hit all those big bubbles, it's a pretty aggressive situation.
A little intense.
Speaking of bubbles, let's get into this next San Anual. So this is the same water, just con gas, as they say. So it actually might be Spanish because it says con gas. I bet it's somewhere in between Spain and France based on the aesthetic and marketing.
It is great aesthetic, though.
Glass,
I mean, glass, too, is that's another side. I mean, if you're talking about plastic versus glass, I wish everybody were to do it in glass.
Why so?
I mean, it's cleaner. Seeing the production side of where that plastic comes from is a little tough. The first time that we really dug into that, we were dealing with one of our big bottled water clients, and they had issues during COVID when resin was just impossible to get. And so all of that, typically is sourced from China. They're shipping over pellets of resin, then it gets blow molded into the bottles that we have. And, just the flexibility on where it comes from was kind of a head scratcher for me. Yeah. It's like, you think that this is more isolated and controlled rather than just, hey, where can we get this? And so that was one that like kind of made me sit back and like, let's just move to glass, like what I buy. And so I try to only do that.
Yes, it's a big task to only buy glass. Slide that over and
it's a pain.
I'll pour some glass water into your glass cup.
There we go.
Man, it's a growing concern with so many people, and it's awesome that we have more and more people who are willing to pay a slight premium. I saw an ad, a Coca-Cola ad, driving back from Barton Springs this morning on the side of the freeway, and it was a photo of a Dasani, a Diet Coke, and a regular Coke made from 100% recycled plastic. Oh, it's good for you. It's good for the environment. What? Recycled plastic leaches so many more microplastics into your water source. Again, going back to water is inherently a solvent. Things that are super acidic, like the syrup in Coca-Cola, leach microplastics at a higher rate. really, honestly, I will never drink out of an aluminum can
Yeah.
because you're getting the microplastics from the liner, but you're also
Mhm.
getting the aluminum. And for me, the aluminum is really like,
Yeah.
that's
Not
a hard no-go. Like,
not good. Yeah, and it's on the recycled side, it's a great story and it makes people feel good.
yes.
On the technical side, on the actual side, it's
What's the cost? And
yeah,
you are the person who's actually paying for that in the long
yeah,
term. It's
100%.
they don't give a shit about what
No.
100%. It's cheaper for them, and
That's
and then
exactly.
they get all the recycling logos on the back of these bottles literally mean nothing.
Yeah,
They are to make the
absolutely not.
customer, and to me that ad was infuriating because I know the history of
Yeah.
plastic marketing and the whole recycling campaign, and these big companies in the 60s hired these ad agencies, and they had someone dress up like a Native American and cry on a beach because there was plastic waste, and
Yeah.
they intentionally put the responsibility on the customer,
Yeah.
on the human population, and not these companies. And I'm very much like a conscious capitalist type person. It's great to make money, but it's also great to do service to humanity while we're doing these things.
Yeah.
We don't have to be greedy in those regards. And it's just like you're putting the burden, you put something in the recycling bin and
Yeah.
you feel good.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything.
Yeah. No, not at all. And it's so been moving into a new house recently, and when I sign up for trash service, this is a conversation I had with my mom the other day. She said, "Oh, well, you don't have a recycling bin here." And it's like, well, unfortunately, I have a friend that's in the recycling business, and I know where the stuff goes. And you send it off to get recycled, and some of it will make it, but the majority of it doesn't.
Yep.
And then I've been fined a couple times for putting it in the wrong bag. And so it's like, well, one, you're not recycling everything I'm putting in here, and then I'm getting penalized for trying to be a good person and do this, but I'm not going to do it again.
Yep.
So it's just this interesting deal. So
Yes. And I think for me, water is kind of the start of all of this. It's a start of these bigger conversations, like how are we of service to humanity? And first and foremost, I'm an artist. I've been an artist my whole life, and water, especially with the birth of my child, it's like, what water is this kid going to drink?
Yeah.
Right. And, he's drinking breast milk only right now, as they do when they're infants, newborns. But the water mom's drinking is getting filtered through her breast milk and ending up back in my child, and the minerality behind all of that. But, water is for everybody.
Yep.
Right. With art, it's such a niche population of people who can afford or are even interested in the artwork. But it's a really amazing way to have intimate relationships and connections, one-on-one energy between me and a collector or a client. If I'm making a custom work for someone or someone's collecting a piece, they have that history, that story. And I get to build real friendships through that.
Yeah.
With water, I see it more of an ability to be of service to humanity and to the world, right? And sure, I'm launching a bottled water company, Liquid Life Wellness Water. I have this educational platform. People don't have to end up buying the water to benefit from the educational component that we're doing. Hopefully they love the water, and they do when it comes out. But I think it goes so much further. It goes into the legislation you're talking about. It goes into where is this blend of tap water coming into? It goes into the legislation. Why are we adding unnecessary chemicals to our water supplies? It goes into recycling. It goes into maybe incentives for using glass. And how do we actually recycle the glass? Like, we create the glass, but how much of that is actually getting recycled? And being innovative in literally every kind of sector, and hopefully and eventually vertically integrate all of this innovation together in order to be of maximum service to not only our customers, our clients, the people who love our water, but to humanity as a whole through what we do.
And it's interesting. That's really what I love the most about what we do. And on the surface, right, whenever somebody asks, what's your business, what are you in, and I kind of joke and say, oh, I'm in the water business, which, internally we always joke there is no such thing as the water business, right? It's really, just solving problems for us, right? I mean, it's, we see either a project that needs help, or we see a city that has a supply issue that we come in and try to solve. So it's really problem solving. But the amount of people that we touch on what we do is just, it's unmatched in my opinion. I mean, we're doing everything from, working with the cities, working with bottled water companies, working with data center growth, throughout Texas, working on supplying nuclear power plants that are trying to be built out in West Texas. Like the reach of who we work with and who we benefit is just massive. And so we do have this section where, yeah, we are benefiting people because you want clean, reliable tap water if you're just the residential homeowner, right? If you just want to get it out of your tap, we provide that need. But at the same time, if you're using ChatGPT and you want to run this program, okay, well, we're supplying water to data centers that allows that to happen. Or if you want cheap fuel, okay, we're providing that to hydrogen companies, to oil and gas companies to be able to produce the stuff that you need to power your car, right? I mean, there's no industry, in my opinion, that we don't directly touch. And it's just such a cool thing. And it's really rewarding being able to talk to all these guys that kind of view water as like, I just don't know how to do this, right? They know they need it just like everybody, but on the execution side, they don't. And so they typically would come to us. But it's just really cool to be able to have that many conversations. And it serves my ADD really well because it keeps me very entertained all the time. But it's just neat. And people don't realize like the reach that water truly has. Because again, I mean, it's one of those things that people have just grown accustomed to, oh, we have it. And like, oh, I turn on my sink and it comes out. I mean, if water stops coming out of your sink, you probably automatically think that there's a billing issue. And you don't understand that, okay, maybe there's a day where it stops coming out because we don't have enough. And so it's just it's an interesting world to be in.
What are your opinions on kind of some out there research around there being oceans of water underneath us, and really there's actually an unlimited supply basically of water. There's theories like primary water out there. This is a great example of a wildcat exploratory. 5,000 feet deep is
crazy.
Really deep.
That's very, very deep.
What are your kind of thoughts around super deep aquifers existing?
I think they could. My research is primarily focused in Texas. Texas, we have a really good understanding of what's under us because of, one, what we do in water, but two, the oil and gas industry.
I think probably one, oil and gas too.
Yeah, that's honestly probably. Yes.
My business partner's in oil and gas, and it's like Texas like Swiss cheese. Like,
oh yeah, there are holes all over the place. So no, but we have a good kind of understanding of that. The University of Texas does a really good job of documenting, usable water tables, brackish zones. Places we need to avoid because they want to do that for the operators. If they're drilling an oil and gas well, we need to know where the water tables are, where the aquifers are, so that we can seal those off and there's no interaction between what they're doing downhole and where people are getting their water from. And so we're spoiled. We have, vast amount of data that show us what we have. I've heard of some crazy stuff that's out there. I haven't heard of one that's 5,000 feet necessarily, but it could be out there. I think the real vast resource that we have is going to be desal in the future, which everybody has their opinion of. But that's
for drinking water too.
I think so. I mean, it's going to come at a time where we have no other option. I think right now groundwater is by far. I mean, that's the only thing that we suggest. Like we're working on some desal projects, just kind of assisting. And it has a bunch of negatives to it, right? Like, what do you do with the product that is coming out the tail end of your plant? Like, that has to go somewhere. Is that sustainable when you get up to full scale? Probably not. But right now it's a power issue, so your water's just too expensive, so we can't get there yet. But a day will come where I think that's where the majority of at least industry water will come from. And so that's the other side, right? We're in this constant battle of like, I need it for development, I need it for homes, but I also need it for industry over here. And so the projects that we work on, we typically try to steer people in that direction from the get-go of like, hey, you have an aquifer under you, whether it be Edwards, Trinity, any usable aquifer of good quality, right? If you're an industrial client that wants it for, say, a hydrogen plant, it's like maybe we should look at the brackish groundwater because you're not competing with any homeowners. You're not competing with the city. It's still a good product and it fits because of your revenues that the project generates where you can afford to do this, right? And so we're trying to, kind of quietly push people away from like, hey, don't take all the good water that, the people need, maybe look over here.
Yeah, well, it's for all the reasons you just said, it's like it makes way more sense. And if hopefully they kind of understand the difference between
It's about a
those.
50-50. Okay. I understand. That's being conservative.
That's so funny. Okay, so for drinking desal water, which is desalinization process, so taking salt water or brackish water, ocean water, for example. We were in Los Angeles during the fires, and I'm like, I put a video on TikTok, like, why don't we just use some of this water? Like, you see all these, Maui also.
Yeah.
You know, the problem is it destroys the soil over a long period of time, but then there's that cost benefit analysis. Okay, you're going to watch everything burn and then worry about the soil. Like, there's, you know, there's a push and pull, just like the fluoride thing, right? Yeah. So it's interesting to hear. I know there's a huge desal plant in San Diego that I've watched some videos on and stuff, and mainly for industrial use. But I wonder what that mineral composition would look like for actual drinking water when it kind of gets to that point.
I don't know. That would be a good one to follow up, though. San Antonio has a desal project on the south side of San Antonio.
Brackish.
And so it's brackish, brackish desal. Corpus is working on a big one. The Port of Corpus Christi was working on one. I think they threw in the towel on that. So it's really just Corpus that's really running at it right now. But that would be a good question for the engineers on their side of what that would look like.
Yeah.
I've
like,
never
can you
thought
get
about
it
that
to
before.
a potable drinking water level? Like,
what is the can?
I mean, I like the idea of drinking ocean water. That sounds nice. Not in LA because of all the toxins that are in that. I just watched something on Instagram, like all these whales are washing up on shore, and all these sea lions are sick, and all the pregnant sea life are losing their babies. So we unfortunately can't go to the beach anymore. We like going to Malibu and hanging out, and we'd love to take a little blaze there, but we have to just do the Beverly Hot Springs. There were 3 hot springs in Los Angeles near La Brea tar pits, and 3 bathing houses, bathhouses, and there's only one left. It's called the Beverly Hot Spring. So when you're in LA next, you have to go, but they pipe that water in, and it's freaking incredible.
The coolest thing. There's a golf course so it's called Hydrus is the town, and it's right on the Mexico border. And there's kind of famously, there was a golf hole at one time where there's actually a green in Mexico. And so you hit over the Rio Grande into Mexico. But awesome. On the course, they have hot springs just randomly throughout the course. So it's always the coolest thing when you're playing. And we typically go out there when it's cooler, like December.
Yeah.
And so you walk up to this water, and it's 90 degrees coming out of the ground. It's like real shallow, so you don't jump in. But I kick my shoes off, and I'm walking through it. Everybody looks at me like a lunatic. It's, how do you not think this is so cool? That's just
Brooks over there doing his water thing.
He's the water guy. Just let him have his moment. He'll come back.
That sounds a lot like me.
Oh, no, I am that guy. There's no problem with it.
There's
no shame.
So much benefit to bathing in living water, too, because just like putting water on the inside of our body, we absorb the water we're bathing in. So you have to think about what you're actually taking these hot baths in when your pores are even larger, because you absorb more of that water and hot tubs and all these things. And that brings me to kind of my last question for you on the technical side, at least for now, unless something comes up in the next 9 minutes. But chlorine, the overuse of chlorine and chlorinization in order to kill bacteria, parasites, viruses, because the cities, of course, don't want people getting sick with the tap water they're drinking. That's their main concern, because then they don't want to get sued. Exactly. They don't want anyone dying.
That's exactly it,
But depending where you're sourcing the water from, the bacteria, viruses, and parasites, I mean, they can be killed with UV sterilization, ozonation. You have to kind of worry about the bromide levels, because you don't want to create too much bromate in the water through ozonation, but that's oftentimes not as big of a concern. But the over-chlorination of the water creates all these DBPs, disinfection byproducts. If you look on these water reports, like the LA County Water Report, the very bottom, they show all the DBPs, and they're like, and they're super long names, but they're chemical processes that happen when chlorine encounters all of these other pharmaceuticals and basically human waste byproduct chemicals that we're urinating into the water that ends up in our municipal water systems in many ways, microplastics, all these types of industrial things as well. And those DBPs are really scary if you start to look into them. Even worse than the chlorine. When you're bathing in the tub, right, the chlorine, I can't take baths in Houston because they chlorinate the water so insane. Here, I can be in the hot tub. I can do everything. It's fine. But man, those DBPs. So what are your thoughts on chlorinating the water and over-chlorinating water and DBPs?
I mean, I think there's more over-chlorination that is going on. than under. I mean, like I understand it serves a purpose, keeping bacteria out, making sure that you don't have anything growing in either tanks or storage or pipelines.
So you have to have some.
Yeah, you have to have
and
it.
chloride
It
is
has to
an
exist.
essential mineral.
Yeah, exactly. But the way that you do retention time on some of these storage tanks, like if we work on a public water system, right, there has to be some retention time in your storage. So if we have a 500,000 gallon storage tank, there's a calculation of, okay, you have to put this dosage in and it has to sit and contact this water for X amount of time based on your volume, right? And like when I'm looking at it, okay, that all seems super, super high, which I get why. I mean, the regulatory side, I want to make sure I'm conservative enough where, you know, I'm not going to have any interaction on the bacterial growth side. So I'm just going to overdose the water. So I think that's where we're at right now. We try to tell everybody that we don't need chlorination, right? It's like you said, like ozone and UV, I mean, that does the trick 90% of the time. I mean, we're working on a 7-mile pipeline just north of here right now, and those are the only two that we need to use. And so I think people like us that are pushing towards that, where we don't have to have chlorine come in unless it's for, you know, putting it into a tanker, you know, something along those lines. And we're good at treating it out. I mean, that's one good thing, that if we have to have it in there temporarily, it is something we can remove. But, you know, on the water system side,
Yeah.
I wish it wasn't there as much as it is.
I'm just fantasizing right now of like in our house, like at our kitchen sink, for example, having two different water dispensers. One is potable drinking water that is the best quality drinking water. And then you have industrial water for cleaning your dishes and cleaning things off, right? Like, but just then I'm like, oh my God, how many billions or trillions of dollars would that be to install two different systems?
It would be a big number on that. You don't want to pick up that tab. But I mean, in a perfect world, that's how things would work. Because a lot of it, you know, we don't need the highest quality water for, you know, probably 90% of what we use water for. I mean, if I want to water my yard, okay, I can have some stuff that I don't really care about, right? The grass is going to be green. That's fine. If I'm drinking it, if I'm cooking with it, if I'm bathing in it.
There we go. The three big ones.
Right. That needs to be pure water.
And I want it to be living water. I have a dream of, and some places have this, Austin closer to that than Los Angeles, that's for sure, where you have your tap water is basically pumping out of a local aquifer, and you get to bathe in that living water, and the amount of minerality in that is just like incredible. So and it's not even chlorine now, as you know, it's chloramines, and there's even cheaper, more easily accessible, more toxic ways to treat this water and to kill these things we don't want in the water. Then we go back to that whack-a-mole situation. All right, let's try this last water, crazy water.
Oh, crazy water.
Have you had crazy water before?
I have. Very popular. A lot of people like that, and that's kind of one that's kind of out there on the spectrum that people like.
Oh yeah, this one is crazy. I'm gonna give you this glass because you got a little left in there.
Oh yeah, there we go. What are your thoughts on crazy water?
Oh man, well, this one is number 3. So I mean, I'm a huge fan because they're a Texas company. I like the name. I like the branding. It's fun. As far as the actual mineral composition goes, it's super high in sulfates. Now, sulfates are really good for you and actually detoxing a lot of things you don't want in your body out. But at this level, and there's also another water called Villeminroy out of France. I might be pronouncing it wrong. It means courage or victorious or something like this. And they have super high sulfates. We're going to have it on the show tomorrow, actually.
Oh, there you go.
And the problem with super high sulfates, some people are really allergic to it in the natural wines, but it's a detoxer.
Yeah.
So going back to the specific use cases for water, if I want to detox water, put a lot of sulfates in there. It'll clean you out.
Clean you out.
Oh yeah.
That's
and I drank half a bottle of that French water, and I was just destroyed for about 12 hours. And I thought it was the barbecue. I haven't had barbecue.
Blaming it on bad potato salad.
And then I'd chat GPT and sulfates and went down the whole sulfate rabbit hole. And it's like,
this tracks now.
Yeah. So my ideal water, very high in magnesium, of course, calcium, the higher potassium levels than, you know, a lot of these water brands are providing. High bicarbonate levels, I think that is super great for the gut and your digestion. And then, you know, it kind of varies on all the other little fun minerals based on the hydrogeography of the source. But yeah, Crazy Water has a new Crazy Water hotel. They have a bathhouse there, I think, and they do
have a hotel.
Yeah, they have a hotel now.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So you
I
can
did
go
not
stay
know.
there and bathe in the pools and stuff. So I want to go do that.
All right. Yeah, I've got to add that to the list.
Cheers. You won't look crazy walking around that water, but no golf course. Actually, maybe there is a golf course.
No, there might be.
So this is number 3. They have 4 different levels.
Yep.
Increasing in the TDS. 0 is their filtered reverse osmosis system. I bet they just get the Mineral Wells tap water. One of my mentors is a Mineral Wells water guy, and he's like, man, you can get the best mineral water just out of the tap in Mineral Wells.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, we should just bottle the Mineral Wells tap water.
We just got to go there. So tell me about that. I mean, it's always cool for us whenever we work with brands to see them kind of going through the journey of, right, where's our water coming from? What do we want it to look like? Like what? And I know we've talked about it on those Zooms we were talking about, but it sounds like y'all have a really, really great vision that's, in line with what we typically think of stuff.
Yeah.
But, where do you see water going for y'all on the source side?
It changes about every 72 hours,
That's
right? Because we have such a
expected.
vision, and I'm just not really willing to settle for anything less than exactly what I want, right? And so one door opens, and then that leads to another door that closes this door, and I'm just being real patient with it. I'm giving it its time. I'm not out there. Most water companies are just marketing brands. They're
That's
just
all it
right.
is. Yeah.
We're doing it different. The next $1 billion water company, bottled water company that I'm hoping we're building right now really focuses on not only what is inside the bottle, but what it's packaged in and what the intention is around the entire brand. And to us, that's education and innovation, and of course some entertainment in between, right?
Have to have a little bit.
And so that's the short answer to the long question. And then coming back to this idea, we need to wrap up here shortly, so we'll end with this. Is that there's so many different use cases for water, right? There's so many different reasons that you drink this water over this water, this mineral composition over this water. And so I see a whole product line actually being built as these doors open and these doors close. And we go down this rabbit hole and this rabbit hole and get all excited about this. And then it's like, well, maybe, and so that's where we're at right now. And it's pretty frustrating because I'm like, I want to drink my own fucking water right now.
I want to have this in a bottle.
But for now, I'm enjoying, the great waters that are out here in the market. And to me, it's a win-win-win for everybody promoting these great waters, these living water sources around the world, because it's a new burgeoning industry. And the more people that are educated about great quality water, hopefully we'll stop buying the bad water.
100%. Yeah. And on the education side, I mean, we have to be patient too in everything we do. And education has been the one biggest thing that's helped us, is more people being aware of, whether it be, not putting the Edwards under as much stress or Trinity under as much stress and switching over to another aquifer, like having conversations of, hey, scientifically, this is why we should do this, right? And even if it's completely contradictory to what people have thought forever, the education is what, hopefully makes one light bulb go off. Where it's like, okay, that's a change we should make.
Yeah, because we do have to respect Mother Nature, Pachamama, at the end of the day, because
100%.
she is recycling the water for us rather than us humans recycling the water, and we see where that gets us.
100%,
So awesome. Thank you so much, Brooks, for joining us.
Happy to be here. Appreciate it. Glad we could do it.
Yeah, me too. I'll put Brooks' socials down in the description, and I would like to gift you one of these
that's awesome.
custom water bottles that we made.
Appreciate it.
Feel free to choose your favorite.
I'm going to take this one right
Look,
here.
everyone always goes to the one closest to them. So.
Oh, well, now I can't be like everybody else. I'm going to take the middle one then. All right.
All right. Thank y'all so much for joining us, episode 10, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, Brooks.
Appreciate it, Preston.